Most of them out here with a 4-turn guide for Tamurkhan. This video will show how to take out your main starting enemy Kholek by turn 4, as well as some diplomacy cheese that you can use to get really high relations with Archaon the Everchosen, as well as the Chaos Dwarf Lords Zatan and Astrogoth. Allying or vassalizing these factions will secure your east, west, and north, allowing you to focus on a single front, and also opening up the way for you to recruit elite units like Dreadquake Mortars or Chaos Warrior Chosen through allied recruitment later. Unlike most other campaigns, you can actually recruit units before you fight your first battle. In this case, we're only going to recruit the Beast of Nurgle, leave the other units there, and then fight your starting battle. The Beast of Nurgle can regenerate, but it's going to take quite a long time. So start the battle, put it on 4 times speed, and then the Beast of Nurgle will start regenerating its health. You've also got another regenerating unit, the Rot Knights. At first, we'll try just to use the Rot Knights to draw out and destroy one enemy unit at a time. Here, I've actually managed to aggro the Trolls first. They're a bit harder to handle, and they can kill some of your Rot Knights if you're not careful. My army's taking a while, and the Trolls are starting to return to their army. So I bring my Rot Knights back in to try to pin them. As long as the Trolls are moving away, that means 2 things. It means they're not charging, so when I engage them, they won't have any charge bonus in combat, and it also means they can't initially do any attacks against my unit. So I can hit them in the back, do some initial attacks, and I'll have at least a couple of seconds before they turn around and start doing damage back. The initial damage from my charge, plus more units that I have dogpiling in, makes the Trolls break before they're able to really do any damage. Here I pull the rest of the army back because we don't want to engage their entire army until we've weakened it a bit further. Use the Rot Knights to distract the enemy to cover my army's retreat, and make sure that we destroy the Trolls completely or run them off the field so that they don't rally. In this battle, as long as we don't use any range damage or spells, we can just continue to tease out one unit at a time and it won't activate the entire army. In this engagement, the Marauders are moving towards me and likely are charging, but because their melee damage is so low, they can't actually kill any of my Rot Knights with a single attack. My Rot Knights, on the other hand, because they're a larger size category, do instant impact damage as soon as they hit the Marauders, which will also knock over and knock back a lot of the Marauders, further reducing their ability to fight back. And then my Rot Knights can just pull out before they take any significant damage. Because none of my entities died, they can regenerate any health that they lost back to full. Watch out for the enemy lord. He can potentially one-shot your Rot Knights. If any of your entities die, then they won't be able to regenerate back to full. Watch out for the Berserker infantry. Unlike the Marauders, if you charge them from the front while they're charging you, you will take a lot of damage. As soon as they turn away, charge them in the back and take no damage. If they keep walking away while you're attacking, just keep attacking. Eventually, they'll engage and turn around. Both your Ogres and your Rot Knights have high health, so they can take potentially 1 or 2 hits before they'll start losing any actual models. Just pull them out before they take too much damage. There we go, they're moving away now, so no charge bonus again. Ogres get some impact damage uphill, which is nice. Then just overwhelm them before they can really fight back. You don't have to do this first battle absolutely perfectly, but I just wanted to demonstrate how you can take the whole army apart with your Rot Knights without taking a single casualty if you need to. It's a useful technique if you ever have a tough battle. Once you've weakened the army sufficiently, just bum rush them and overwhelm them with the rest of your forces, hopefully making them shatter before they do any significant damage. If you take a few casualties, that's fine. The object is just to make sure that none of your units get absolutely destroyed. Run down as many of the routers as you can after the battle. Kill the Lord for extra gold. You can use your army ability slow to help catch the routers if you didn't use it up to help your Rot Knights earlier. If you do need to take replenishment, you get more replenishment the more routers you run down. Or you can take infections. You get 1 infection for every 4 enemy captured. I took the money, but it's probably better to take the infections. After the first battle, click on the gallows tree, fight it manually and make sure you don't take too many casualties. Sack the settlement first and then occupy it. Next, go into diplomacy. Now you can sell the gallows tree to exquisite paint, 1600 gold, then just immediately declare war and retake the settlement. Back into diplomacy, join the Khul's war against Clan Ferric for a little gold, and then immediately sell peace to Clan Ferric for a little more gold. Before you do anything else, make sure that you recruit a Nurgle Lord at the gallows tree and you move Tamurkhan outside of the settlement towards the east, moving towards Floating Mountain so that he's here. You'll also want to make sure that you take Route Marcher on turn 1. Now that you own gallows tree again, you can go back into diplomacy, make peace with your starting enemy, the Dolgan, and trade gallows tree for Floating Mountain plus a ton of cash. You won't get any replenishment because you're in foreign territory now, but in exchange for that slight disadvantage, you get to take Floating Mountain on turn 1 instead of waiting till turn 3. Recruit a Nurgle Sorcerer Lord here. and recruit all of your remaining units with this lord. Garrison the lord inside the settlement so these units get the maximum replenishment. Now you can also recruit your first chieftain hero Kazakh and have him join Tamurkhan's army. Build your basic money building microbial bog in Floating Mountain. Now at the start of the game your plagues will be locked until you earn 200 infections. There is a little trick that you can do where you start building a building which uses 200 infections, then you cancel it to get your 200 infections back. But don't do this. I'd say it's much more advantageous to start building your recruiting building on turn 1 than it is to get a plague. Start researching Fecundity. It's an army ability heal. It'll be useful in the battle against Kholek. And you get in turn. Over the end turn, Kholek will vassalize the Dolgan, allowing you to attack the Gallows Tree without breaking your peace agreement with them. Make sure that you attack the Gallows Tree with Tamurkhan. Tamurkhan's within the 0 movement circle of the Gallows Tree, so it won't cost him any movement to attack it, but if you sack it, he'll retreat in the direction that you want to go without using any of his 100% movement range. Then you can force march him over towards Dragon's Death. Put your other Chaos Lord in camp stance and leave him here. Because the Dolgan are a Norscan tribe, every time you sack this settlement, it'll give you 1 fealty for Kazakh the Befouled. So we'll leave this Lord here to sack it every turn. Recruit another Chaos Lord at Floating Mountain. Transfer all of the units out of the Sorcerer's army into the Chaos Lord. Then move the Sorcerer Lord out of the settlement towards Dragon's Death. He can't reach it this turn, so just move him a little way to ensure that he'll be able to make it next turn. The Dolgan likely won't attack him as he would just retreat anyway, but you can put him in ambush stance to be extra safe. Now that the settlement's empty, you can move the Chaos Lord back in to get maximum replenishment on your units. Go into diplomacy and you can sell peace to Exquisite Pain for a little more gold, and then you can end turn. Turn 3, you can sack the Gallows Tree again. 1 more point of fealty for Kazakh. Remember to put your Lord back into encamp stance. Initiate your siege on Dragon's Death with your Sorcerer Lord. Transfer your wounded troops into the main army and bring up Tamurkhan. You can fight this battle manually if you want to be safe. If you're careful, you should take no damage, just occupy, and then your wounded troops can replenish in the settlement over the end turn. Move your Chaos Lord up a little more and recruit another Chaos Lord. Also, build another money building at Dragon's Death. And end turn. Turn 4, and we're ready to take on Kholek. But before you do that, sack the Gallows Tree again. 1 more Kazakh fealty. Then you can attack the Challenging Stone. Transfer all of Tamurkhan's units into the main army and bring up your other lords to support. On max difficulty, the auto-resolve will give you a loss, but you can win it in a manual battle. As before, we're going to start off with just using Kazakh and the Rot Knights, and the rest of our troops we're going to hide down here so that they won't get hit by the towers. First thing we're going to do is try to lure out some shots from the Hell Cannon. The Hell Cannon will fire at the Rot Knights. Oh, looks like this Sorcerer's been lured outside. Oh, he ran back inside. That's right. So once you get in a good spot where the Hell Cannon is actually firing at the Rot Knights, you want a spot where they'll fire at the Rot Knights, but it'll actually hit the gate. And then you can just leave it on 4 times speed. If the Sorcerer is a Lore of Metal Sorcerer, he'll cast Searing Doom on your Rot Knights, and you can keep waiting for him to cast it, then moving and keep dodging it and waste all of his wounds of magic. When I did this before the last update, he was a Lore of Metal caster, but this Sorcerer is a Lore of Zeech, so he's only got Blue Fire of Zeech. So he can't target us with Blue Fire of Zeech from inside the walls, but he might try. So try and lure him into shooting his Blue Fire of Zeech at us. If he doesn't fire it, you can move your Rot Knights around and try and waste his Winds of Magic. Blue Fire of Zeech is probably not that dangerous. So if you can't waste all of his Winds of Magic, don't worry too much about it. But if it's a Metal caster and he's got Searing Doom and Gehenna's Golden Hounds, you'll definitely want to lure out those spells before you bring your army in. Otherwise, they'll do huge amounts of area effect damage if your infantry are blobbed up. Now, before you bring your army in, check which towers are active. These towers aren't active, so come in this side. And you want to put all your single entities, your Beasts of Nurgle, and maybe your Plague Ogres into one group. This is going to be a squad especially for killing Kholek. Then you want your Rot Knights and your Plague Toads in a cavalry group. And then you want your infantry ready to go through the gate. The Sorcerer might cast a few more blue fires into the wall. Get all your infantry ready to go through the gate. Plague Bearers in first so they can take most of the damage. Put your single entities in there as well. Have your Spellcaster in a separate group. Don't want him too close to the front line. Knock the gate down, but don't necessarily send all your single entity units in first. Now I want to push in with everyone, try to get in fairly deep into about here. Now, when they come in, you don't want your single entities to be too far ahead of your main units. So when Kholek comes in, maybe pull your single entities back. So he's doing a lot of damage. Keep pushing your units in. You can use a debuff on Kholek if you want to weaken him a little bit. You can see my sorcerers getting destroyed because he's too far forward outside my infantry blob. Get all your single entities onto him. Start hitting him. Keep pushing in your infantry. See, they've sort of caught us near the door. You don't really want that. You want to be pushed, like, get everyone inside. Get your single entities onto Kholek. Use this debuff on Kholek so he takes more damage. And then get all your cavalry units and pull them into this little space here that you've made behind so they can pull out and then cycle charge back in. Get your group 1, your single entities to beat on Kholek. If he gets too far outside of your infantry blob, let him go and go back into your blob. Every time your fecundity comes up, use that heal. Usually targeted on my ogres because they tend to take a lot of damage. Pull its cavalry out so they can cycle charge. Now, with your Chaos Sorcerer, you want to be casting the Stream of Corruption. Just keep casting it on the densest concentration of enemies every time it comes off cooldown. If you manage to get your cavalry units out, just cycle charge them back in. Kholek should come back in after your single entities, so then just refocus him with your single entities. As long as you've pulled him into your infantry blob, it should be relatively safe. Again, you can use the Miasma of Pestilence debuff on him to stop him if he's doing too much damage to your units, but try to save most of your Winds of Magic just to constantly cast Stream of Corruption on the biggest concentration of their forces here. And if you get some cavalry out, just cycle charge them back in so they get their charge bonus. Every time your Fecundity's up, just cast that back on your ogres again. Keep your single entities targeting on Kholek. Whenever sort of fills up, pop that on Kholek as well to make him go down faster. Chase him. Keep going with the Stream of Corruption. Kholek's targeting the Beast of Nurgle. It'll regenerate though if it doesn't take too much damage. Get our cavalry back out again. Okay, if Kholek pulls back too far, get your single entities and focus back on stuff that's inside of your massive infantry. Keep casting Stream of Corruption every time it's off cooldown. Kholek comes back in to your blob. Target him again. Each cavalry charge out. You can charge them back in. Stream of Corruption through the mass of their units. Once Kholek's down, it's just a matter of grinding your way through the rest of the enemies. Keep casting your spells and buffs whenever they're off cooldown. I've tested this battle a heap of times now, maybe 6 or 7 times. I've run the same battle using the same strategy. It's worked every single time. So I think this should work for most people. Just have to remember to waste the Hell Cannon ammunition. Try to waste the Winds of Magic from the spells if you can. Don't worry too much about it if it's not a metal caster. Focus your hard-hitting single entities on Kholek when he's inside your infantry blob. Don't let him draw you out into his blob. Keep all your buffs and debuffs up constantly and keep casting Stream of Corruption through the highest concentration of his forces every time it's off cooldown. As I said, I've done it a bunch of times. It's worked every single time, so hopefully it'll work for you too. That's army losses. Then you just got to kill the Hell Cannon crew because they're unbreakable. Got any healing left at this point, just use it on your heroes. And that's Kholek's faction completely wiped out on turn 4 without losing any units. Beyond that, there's a bunch of diplomacy shenanigans you can do in the next turn to set up all your alliances and get a jump on the greenskins to the south. First, you want to recruit another lord at Floating Mountain, and then you want to trade the challenging stone for Blizzard Peak plus a bunch of cash. Then recruit a new lord at Blizzard Peak. Then sell Blizzard Peak back to the greenskins, another 2,000. And then, of course, we immediately declare war on them. Retake Blizzard Peak, then move back out to the east side, retake the Challenging Stone, and retake Floating Mountain. Then just build the money building in Challenging Stone, and move your armies up towards Blizzard Peak. When the greenskins attack your lord, just retreat, and then they should occupy Blizzard Peak. Your lord shouldn't retreat too far, and then they'll be able to initiate a siege on Blizzard Peak on turn 5. Whereas normally it would take you 2 turns to get your army from Challenging Stone to Blizzard Peak. Move Tamurkhan up, move one of your Nurgle lords up, and then move your other Nurgle lord out of the way so that your main army has a clear path to walk up the road. I'd fight this battle manually so that you don't take any casualties, but I'm just going to auto-resolve it for now for a quick demonstration. Loot and occupy the settlement. Now that your recruitment building's finally finished building, you can recruit 3 more units here. Sack the gallows tree again. Because the Dolgan have recruited a lord this turn, your Nurgle lord won't be able to solo the garrison. Just auto-resolve it anyway though. As long as he isn't going to die, he'll do a little bit of damage, retreat, and then you can just replace this lord with a full health lord, and then he can come back in and auto-resolve this battle. That'll give you another point of fealty with Kazakh. Next turn, you'll be able to finish it off. Recruit another sorcerer lord at Dragon's Death, and then you can end the turn again. Now it's turn 6. You can farm the gallows tree one more time. Again, you aren't going to be able to defeat the garrison, but just retreat, then replace your lord with a fresh Nurgle warrior lord, auto-resolve, and this time you can occupy the settlement. That will give you enough fealty to raise Kazakh to align. Once Kazakh's aligned, they'll unlock all of the other chieftains. You can recruit whichever one you want first. I'm going to recruit Izar Doombolt because he gains fealty from fighting greenskins, and we're about to be fighting Grimgor to the south. Okay, so we're making really fast headway towards the south. In order to protect our east and our north, we want to set up an alliance with Archaon and Zatan. So we sell Archaon the gallows tree. That gives him plus 40 from gifts. Then we trade him Floating Mountain in exchange for the gallows tree. We trade a few regions back and forth until he owns both the Challenge Stone and Floating Mountain, 2 regions in the same province. That makes him value Dragon's Death more because that would let him complete the province. And that allows me to trade him Dragon's Death in exchange for Floating Mountain. Then he owns Challenge Stone and Dragon's Death, and he just needs Floating Mountain to complete the province. So he'll pay more for that. At this point, you can just keep trading Floating Mountain for Dragon's Death back and forth over and over infinitely. Now we just declare war on Archaon and retake all the settlements that we sold to him. We've got a lord next to every settlement, so let's go through and retake all of them. Now we can make peace. At the same time, we can take non-aggression and military access. At this point, you should be able to just pay Archaon for a military alliance. Now that you've got Archaon as a military ally, enter negotiations with Zatan. As with Archaon, we trade him a bunch of regions until he owns both Challenging Stone and one of the other regions in the same province. And then we can just keep trading Floating Mountain for Dragon's Death back and forth forever. Once relations are heading towards about plus 800, declare war, then retake all of the settlements back from Zatan. Once you've reclaimed all of your territory, make peace with Zatan. In this case, he's willing to take the military alliance straight away as well. Now we have allies to the east, allies to the northwest, and once we head down here, take out these minor factions, we'll make contact with Astrogoth, and we'll be able to region trade to get an alliance with him as well, and have 3 strong allies guarding all of our flanks. Once you've built outposts, this also gives you access to Chaos Warrior allied units, just to give you some extra recruitment in the early game, and also Chaos Dwarf allied units, which could potentially give you some really good late game units like Dreadquake Mortars.